When a person is trying to work on their Bitachon, it sometimes feels very frustrating when we find ourselves in a moment of losing it, getting very upset, losing our temper, and besides the unpleasant feeling of the situation itself, there's a deep disappointment. Why isn't it working for me? I should have been doing better already after learning Chovos Halvavos, trying to work with the information that I have to be able to be a better yid, a better person. And sometimes a person be'emes sees that they had success stories of being able to handle a situation calmly, knowing that the Rebbeinu Shalom runs the world, everything's bashert. But then when there's a different matziv that comes, and we find ourselves falling very, very badly it's be'emes not geschmack b'chlal to find ourselves in a matziv. Sometimes it's anxiety, being so upset and being so anxious, sometimes being so scared, overwhelmed. Where's the bitachon? Where did it run away? Why isn't it seeming to work? So of course there's the answer of that a person is not a machine, and all the Sforim explain that Hashem created a matzav of aliyas v'yeridus. Person has a matzav that they're doing better, and then they lose the madrega that they had. They're not anymore at that level. And for many reasons, Hashem created the world in such a mahalach that a person should constantly need to try to work with themselves. And it's not like if you acquired a madrega, a level, then that's it. You're never going to fall from that madrega. Told us Yaakov Yosef, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef from Polno, from the first tzaddikim from Talmidei Abal Shem, explains this week's parsha, Parshas Boy, Kani hirbarati yasli boy. He says sometimes Hashem will make the person fall because it makes the person work, have a tainug when they get back to the madrega again. Which means that if a person is always status quo, then they don't have the pleasure of having this madrega. He gives a moshel. The Toldos Yosef gives a moshel that there was once a son of a melech, that the melech saw that he doesn't appreciate the food that they have, the very expensive, high-end kind of way of living, and he wanted that the child should appreciate it. So he sent him away, and he sent him to the kfar. He sent him that he should be between very, very simple people, and everything should be very, very pashut. The Talmud explains that the reason was so he should have a desire. He should be the nefesh should want to get back to that madrega so badly, and then when he comes back, it should become part of him. He should be so excited, and he should appreciate it, and then it's on a much higher madrega. The Talmud goes on to say the hemshach of the moshel, that the problem was that he got so used to living a simple way of life that he didn't it went too much, went too far. The child he didn't want to come back. So the melech, the king, had to send one of his sorim, one of the ministers, to go down to his level, start schmoozing with him, and slowly remind him, and to wake up again the desire to want to get back to that place that the person was, that the child was. And he says the nimshal is that Hashem sometimes sees that a person doesn't appreciate it. The person is doing well, but they don't have that tainug, they don't have that pleasure in avodas Hashem. So Hashem creates a matzav of an afila. Then the person begs the Rebbeinu Shlem to get back up there, and that charot and tshuva and tshuka that the person has, the desire to get there, brings the person that when they get there the second time around, it came from a deep desire, and that connects them much stronger to the madrega that they are. So a person has to go through such a kind of roller coaster to be able to get to deeper places of their nefesh. So that's one of the reasons why we seem always to go up and down, and it's officially like that. Just the avodah is a person shouldn't be like a yo-yo. It means never really doing progress, just to constantly the Yeridis are the same level and the Aliyahs are the same level, so they don't really do progress. The idea is that what used to be for him something that was his best matzav is now when he's not on a good matzav. You get so many examples. Sometimes you have a child that when they got upset, when they lost the temper, they would break things. They would be impossible. Now they wouldn't do that. They could lose it, but they wouldn't. They wouldn't rip apart. They wouldn't do that. So that's progress. But now we want to get to a situation that sometimes they don't lose it at all, and then when they fall, they lose it, but they still don't go to throw objects and totally lose it. So the idea is to constantly move upwards, but it's not that we could be in the same like a straight line. It's more a graph of that there's ups and downs, and it's a pattern of slowly climbing that ladder. But there's another major reason for this situation that we see by ourselves, that this matziv that we see that we have, sometimes that we totally lose it and we don't have the bitachon b'chlal. And in order to understand that, it's very important to chab. There's mainly two types of nisyonis when it comes to bitachon. We'll call it today the cold nisyonis and the warm nisyonis. Winter shear. That means there's the side of losing bitachon in the sense of having gaiva, feeling that I could do it on my own. Koichi v'otzim yodi. I know it all. I'm good. I'll figure it out. That comes to the person through their mind, that they feel that what's the problem? I could take care of business. I don't have to come on to the Rebbeinu Shlem so badly. More examples of the cold type of nisoyan of bitachon is if a person looks at current events, especially what's personally negeya for them, as teva. This is what it is. This is normal. It's just, this is what life is all about. This is what the world is all about. There's pros, there's cons, there's better zachen, there's worse. It is what it is. They don't look at it with a blick of Ashgacha Protis. The Rebbeinu Shlem is the one that's doing it, and it's supposed to be exactly like that. So that's a mind nisoyan. It's a nisoyan in the mind. The person forgot that it's Ashgacha Protis. Another example is when a person relies on somebody else. That's coming from the mind that a person feels, ooh, if I'm good with that guy, I'm going to make it. If I have any problem, he's going to help me financially. I have any issue, he's my guy. That means we forget to rely on the Rebbeinu Shlem. But then there's a whole list of nisyonis, which is the opposite of bitachon, that's coming from a total different side of us. And that is, let's call it the nisyonis that come from the inside, that we get frustrated and we get upset. It's like you could feel the blood rushing, the heart rate is quicker. which includes all types of kas. The person got very upset. It was a choice of Bitachon. Hashem created it that way. But instead of being a cold and so like from the mind, it's cooking. Sometimes you could see totally like you can boil an egg on that person. He's like on fire. So that's a very, very, it's a wide variety of situations of kas. Any types of fear. Person walking in the street, if they're scared of a dog, or a person's scared of someone harming them. People get phone calls. If you don't have the money until 10 days, you'll see yourself in a body bag. I mean, there's the situations of fear that it just overpowers the person, shocks them. It's not upset, but it's something that's not cold. It just takes over the person. Then you have anxiety. Anxiety is very, very, again, is all kinds, a lot of people have anxiety in specific areas of their life. People have that they're not worried about certain areas, and in different places they have total anxiety. Now this anxiety is called, you could call it daiga, you could call it pachad, it's mixed of both, but it's a total choiser, trust in the Rebbeinu Shalom, but it's coming from a place of the blood rushing. The person is totally overwhelmed and totally losing it. So now, if we would realize and analyze the matziv, we would see that the nisyonos that take us over, that we totally lose it, is more to the side of the warm nisyonos. Let's repeat. So there's two types of nisyonos when it comes to choser bitachon. We're calling it the cold and the hot, the cold and the warm. The cold ones is gaiva, relying on others, forgetting hashgacha pratis. It's a train of thought that's wrong. The hot ones is getting frustrated and upset, anxiety that's coming from the inside, that the person totally gets verloren, they lose it. And fear sometimes isn't that. Fear and anxiety are cousins, but they're in that family. Now here's an interesting thought. We know today that the brain has different parts that have different functions. The front part of the brain, the back part of the brain, that right side, left side, they have totally different functions. Memory versus understanding. There's totally different functions, and it's a different part of the brain. What they call today the amygdala is the part of the brain, like all ammon, because it has such a shape. There's a certain part of the brain that's in charge of feeling something that you're supposed to be cautious of. And when the nefesh feels like this is a threat, it goes into action, something that's very physical. You could see it, the blood rushes to that part of the brain. And a person totally loses their logic. There's no logic. Try to talk to a person that's having now a panic attack with logic. It's not shnigeya. You're wasting your time. Why? Because it's a physical phenomenon. Something's happening inside, which is turning off the logic brain. It even affects different parts. Research of the amygdala. I'm saying it right. So if that's the case, so l'choyre there's a big shaila. You're teaching bitachon, we learn bitachon, and then you have a person that has a schwachkeit, that has it could be something that be nature, nurture. A person has a schwerkeit, a difficulty to certain areas that cause them anxiety. Phobias, they're from the same, it's different names chapping on different parts of it. OCD is also in the family of phobias and anxiety. So now we have a shaila, a bitachon shaila. A person finds themselves that in certain areas, when this comes up, when they have this scare, you could have sometimes a person that if the child doesn't come home on time, that's where it hits them. Financially, doesn't hit them. As though I didn't see this is the fact. They're not worried. They should get helping. They're all there. But the child said they're being home at 7 p.m. All of a sudden they have it. It's 7:45. Okay, it starts. Then they put on their glasses, and then they start looking, checking. If it's 9:15, and you can't get a hold of the kid, there's zaka out the door. There's zatzola. Don't ask. They're totally overwhelmed, and that's a dogma of anxiety. If you're talking about getting very upset and losing your temper, it's a selbe Sach. A gesunter person, a yeshiva dasdige person, a smart person with so much knowledge and so much, and the person that work with themselves. Someone that did a lot of work, and is the midas of the person. You could see so much a rich, emerson person, and then if you touch them in a certain place where they're so sensitive in that place, they lose it. Maybe not in public, but in private, they lose it. So the shaila is, where did the bitachon run away? Where's the bitachon? So someone that doesn't know about this part of the brain is going to say, because you don't really have bitachon, it's not true. Oh, it's nicht so. Because if a person chaps, the physical reaction that the brain has when it's triggered by certain images, certain pieces of information that touch them in a very, very sensitive way, after that happens, you could talk and think bitachon from today to tomorrow. There's no one to talk to. It's like talking to someone that's sleeping now. You're screaming into the person's ear. Laskil chobino, the brief from the Tanya. If he's awake, he can hear. But if he's not awake, he can't hear. It's not possible. Someone's in the middle. Shamirachem. When the amygdala is in process, is working, then the whole nefesh is screaming fight or flight. That means it goes into a mode of fighting. It doesn't make any sense to fight sometimes. Or running away. And sometimes running away has no pshat. Now they used to create it that way because when a person is be'emes in a danger, then it is an automatic, it's like an auto. That a person the nefesh should know, like a balak chai. Who taught them? Who was their psychologist teaching them that they should fight or flight? The answer is, it's in the brain. This part of the brain is by a child. The little baby has it. But when that's triggered, this is what happens to that person. So a person has to know the erste Sach. That if you find that in those nisyonos of Bitachon, you're falling much more than in the nisyonos of Koicha V'Otzim Yadi. Look at this interesting, for now, look at this, look at it from the far. You're not stamp falling, that you're learning Chavis Always is not doing anything. Sometimes you'll realize, hey, what type of matzovim do I see that Bitachon is not working? The cold war or the hot war? The answer is, sometimes you'll see that it's by the hot war. And if that's the case, there's a bissel absurd toiva. That the pshat is, as far as the person trying to internalize Yesoidus of Chochmah, and being more ba'anova, and more not being boiteach in people, and more trying to remember Hashgacha Pratis, it's seeping in. Of course we have a long way to go there as well, but it's seeping in. But when it comes to the hot war, when it comes to if it's anxiety or frustration, losing temper, fear, phobias, then the pshat is because something else is happening to you. By the time it happened, it's shenish negeya the chavis alvavas. It's b'chal nish negeya. Rather do something else. Oh, so that's the matzah. The question is now, so what do I do? What do I do? He says, first of all, in very short, this is one of the reasons, one of the explanations why sometimes getting help by a professional is totally not a contradiction with Bitachon. Common questions, frequently asked questions by people. I have an issue. Do I learn Chavis Alvavas, or do I go to my therapist? I want to do the Torah Dig Away. I think I should be doing the Torah Dig Away. So it has a few parts, this question, who's the therapist? But there's one part that in this shir we could relate to so clear. That the pshat is azoy. We're supposed to be learning Chavis Alvavas to put in the right knowledge. But when a person, their nisoyan is that something is happening to their brain, if you are not going to, in addition to be learning what the Torah says, of course, trying to figure out how to help your brain, how to go to the doctor to help the brain, then the knowledge doesn't have the yichaylis, even if you're going to work on a high madrega, because you need to refer to something else. And not everybody is the same. Most of us, if not all of us, have certain difficulties, or there's a word, we're not flawless. We have a chison, we have a blind spot, we have a schwachkeit by flaw, not flaw the word. We have in the area of one of them or all of them somewhere. Maybe it doesn't get triggered as often. It doesn't mean that always a person is supposed to have a therapist for those chalakim. But you have to categorize it in your mind that those chalakim need tipul miyuchad. Just by understanding the metzias of it. They need something else in addition to the knowledge to be able to work with yourself, to overcome those overpowering feelings that you have by certain matzav.
That animals can have it also. They can also have such things. So if they can't learn Chavis Alvavas,
animals have it as well, but the animal, it's possible to work with the animal. That's what's fascinating. Is that true? Their behavior patterns should change. They shouldn't lose their temper. They shouldn't get wild. How do they do it? They teach them. But this is how you understand it. This is something you have to work with that brain. And it's not, a person is going to say, is that up with Torah? The answer is, of course, if the knowledge that you're using to try to change the brain is contradicting the Torah, then of course that's a problem. But there is no tzorich if you're teaching an animal, it's with the Torah, it's without the Torah, it's a behavioral. It's a mahalach of trying to teach you how to do it right. Like we try to we call it be mechanech, but it's not the right word. We try to teach children to eat with manner. There's certain behavioral chinuch which is needed, which is right now, it's more refuah for the guf and for the nefesh with hashkafa. It's very important to know how you're relating to different parts. And that's why it definitely doesn't contradict. Doesn't have to contradict. Now, if we want to continue on, there are different nisyonos that we also have, that we get very overpowered with feelings. Like, for Ladugma Shmira Sinai, it's of a different kind, but it has a hashpah that a person gets nispol. That's what happened. It changed something in the person. And the person said, there a person could have doime, what should I do? What should I do? It just overpowers me. So again, there are people who need special help, but there's geder siyog, like by a nazir. You tell a person, the number one is, try not to get into such matzavim. That's the Torah de Gashkov. That's number one. Ikidaka Achin the Gemara. Don't go to places where you know why. Because you're a person that's going to get nispal. Because that's what a human being is. And it's a part of the mahus of a human being. And it has moiridig milas when it's used in the right way. So the human being has to know their difficult, their schwachkeit, that metzias of them. I can't go. It's not for me. I can't do that. If it doesn't bother you, but it's not for me. I can't be in this job. It's not possible for me to be in this environment. This environment is terrible, terrible for me. So that is be'etzem, maybe the first mahalach, how to work with something that it brings me into a matzav that I lose it. The Torah says by a nazir, go around, don't go near. So a person would say, if I know that when I discuss this topic, then usually it doesn't end well. A long list of things that didn't end well, like the Hanukkah party. It didn't end well. It didn't end well. So I try not to go into that topic. I plead the fifth. That's Chachmas Chaim. So the same way you're using it here, you could use it here as well. It's a precaution. A person is trying not to get to these places, but of course, this can be the only mahalach. Because, first of all, you're not fixing it, and here you're supposed to try to fix it. Different than Bashmir Sinai. Here you're supposed to fix it. Aleph. And second of all, because you can't really avoid it all the time. It's not possible. Not possible. If a person would be living on an island themselves, but then they would die from loneliness. We work with people, and it's usually the ones that are the closest to us that trigger us the most. So, once a person chaps this nekuda, you can't really avoid it. There's one zach that could help. We're talking stam praktisch. There's of course better madregas of learning how to handle it, but practically, the etzem yediyah, the piece of knowledge that a person knows that this is what's happening to them, could help very, very much when a person realizes that it's starting to happen. It's very interesting. Many times, again, it depends on the level, because phobias and zach, sometimes it could be, there's nothing to do. But when you're talking about, let's say, frustration, in those the dargis, not frustration, certain medegas of kas. That's it. When it comes to these zachen, every person chaps that kas is not only a shar mesilas yishorim. No, kas is also physical, and it builds. And when by kas, a person could feel that it's starting to come, the warm ear, starting to come. If you chop it goes, and it travels very quick. But if you chop it before it happened, a person could smirk and realize it, and change like they have the walkie-talkies, the tether, change the channel. That means walk away, realize, that was happening. Okay, I'm going to Mincha. Or even if you're there, not always, you don't have to go away, but you change the channel. It works wonders. It works wonders. Because you didn't lose the moyach yet.
Sometimes you didn't sleep enough, you're in big second to get angry at yourself. Another eitzah, when a person knows that it's not simple now. Because first of all, I'm sleep deprived. Or sometimes a person is right now coming from a different struggle. And the person's on low battery, it's ringing, low battery. So now it doesn't, whoever's going to be in my way is going to be b'yoyim pokti pokadati. That means is going to get for all the above. So a person has this awareness. It makes us be, first of all, humble about our essence. Human beings is we're very, very, very choshev. The neshama is much choshever than we could fathom, and that's who we are. But we are on a guf. It's very, very schwach. That's us, all of us. Shalom aleichem. That's us. And part of learning bitachon is being aware how schwach we are. And it's so true, and it's so helpful. It's so helpful. Because when a person is begaiva, there's so much sheker. It gets us in the way that it makes such issues, this lie. Because the pshat is, you're just going to say it's not a problem. Person is driving, they didn't sleep for 2 nights. No, I'm fine. I know it's a problem. It's a very big problem. And especially if someone once drove and nothing happened, and then they're convinced. There's with today's technology, with the nisyonis of technology and filters, we're shvacha people. It's so honest, and it's a person says like, no, you have nisyonis, okay, because I don't. It's such a misunderstanding. It's like nebuch. It's a misunderstanding. And even if a person is elevated, they learn Torah, and they be'emes, but a second, they lose everything. The marshal kas, we don't get a warning, because we always have that we're in a guf, and the guf could say hi at any given moment. That is the metzias of us. There's a Teferes Shloime. The Teferes Shloime says that by davening we finish one kapitel from Sukkot Zimra Hallelujah, then we start the next one Hallelujah. So it's like together Hallelujah, one next to. He says the human being is a type of bria that by one he could be having like Ruach HaKodesh in the sky, but the next one I don't want to say. That's how quick, that's how near it is a person to be in this matzav and in that matzav. That's what it is. A malach, because there's a guf and there's a malach in there. Sometimes people think that a human being is somewhere in the middle. You're not in the middle. You're not in the middle. It's a malach and a behema and fartik. There's no person. There's maflila says they wish to put us together, a malach and a behema. The malach is malach, and even more than a malach. A yid is hecher than a malach, and we meet that hecher chelik. We see it. We see it by us. We see it by others. But people do. You could cry sometimes from just seeing, wow, look what a yid is, and it is. That's what it is. The same way you could see how a person could fall because that's the goof. I'm not shocked. Sometimes you see a person, you know that person, and you see certain behavior. I know, I wasn't shocked. Person from the side, I'm shocked. I was always thinking of that person that they would never behave like that. That's our goof. So being aware of this metzius it helps us not get so frustrated from the frustration. Realize, live in that world and chap. So even if you can't make a geder siyag, because you can't avoid the real issues in life, you can't avoid them. But what you could do is, you could realize that today I'm more sensitive, and tell yourself, and sometimes honest people tell others. Before it happens, I just want to be honest that I'm in a sensitive spot. So just in case something happens, that's what it was. And then when you see that it's starting to happen, okay, that emotion is they call it flooding. It's taking me over. It's taking me over. But al gabe zeh, after all that we said, is also maybe the most important, akabar not less important, is that there's a big yisoid in Torah, very big yisoid in Torah. You cannot learn the information that you need when it's negeya. It's much too late then. It's too late because there's no kelim right now to learn it. There's zero kelim to learn it right now. And it's not the time to learn it right now. The mind can't comprehend right now. And that's why lo yoleinu v'lo yaleichem. Lo yoleinu v'lo yaleichem. But if a person is in a situation, if it's a nichum avelim, or any of that kind of tragedy, right now is not really the time to learn anything. The Torah says nichum avelim. Not, okay, let's send down a crew to teach them now Amunah. We could wake up what they know. That means you could take out, there's a lot of knowledge of Amunah there. So if maybe with a soft, beautiful story of Chizik, and now is not the time, now it's much too late. It was last week or something, someone told me that he caught the cold, the flu or something like that. So he was taking whatever he was able to put his hand on, the Nurofen and Tylenol and vitamin C and this. So he called a family member that knew. He said vitamin C. He said no. Vitamin C you take 2 weeks ago, so you shouldn't get the cold. So he said it's like learning Chayvah of his afternoon in soil. That's what he told them. Chayvah you learned 2 weeks earlier. The pshat is that this yisoid, it's simple, but we have to chap the way the body works different. The idea of all these, the list, the family of nisyonas that have to do that we lose our temper, and all the different kinds of it, like we said, is that we had a certain trigger. And we have many, all of us. Triggers of the pshat is that reminds us of something terrible. It creates a fear. It creates us. It makes us feel terrible because of a certain reason. And once it's triggered, it's very, very hard right now that a piece of knowledge, a yediyah, should turn off that zach. But when you're not in the nisoyan, b'chlal, and you're analyzing why it hurt you in such a deep way, and you go back, you say, why do I lose it? Why does that thing make me tick? What's the reason? And work with it. Try to get to the bottom of it. It's even possible sometimes with somebody else, sometimes with yourself, sometimes with a mumcha, but not always. It's so complicated. Not always it's so complicated. Sometimes a person can't reach it. And when they can't reach it, there's methods. and dargas of methods to pull out Sachen that's not reachable with the regular, they call it the conventional ways. But the idea of why it hurts me so much is many times it's something that's not so deep. Pshat is that I think it's crazy. L'moshel. Stel zich vor, I'm trying to bring out that not always it's the deepest of the deepest. Many times a person feels that this makes no sense. Take l'moshel, a parent that's so upset at their child for a certain behavioral issue, and they lose it. And then they try to analyze it. Why do I lose it? And they try to say, because I'm embarrassed. The truth, nish the toilet, nish go, nish I'm embarrassed. And that embarrassment, sometimes we can work with it. We can work with it. Okay, from who are you the most embarrassed? And why are you so embarrassed? Do you know? Let's analyze it. It's normal for this age. In your mind, it's 10 times scarier than the Amos. Let's try. Let's exercise going through this once and seeing that it's not so embarrassing. Or a person that feels that someone's doing something b'dafka and it triggers them. They feel their shutef in business is trying to do something. There's mamish thousands of triggers that are not who knows what, how deep. Of course, there's all these triggers that wake up, matzovim that a person went through when they were young, that they felt humiliated, and that's why they jump. And even with anxieties, again, it gets more, it's harder, but sometimes you need a mumcha. But it's the same mitzvah. You're having a mitzvah when you're trying to analyze it, when the nisoyin is not here, because you're letting yourself try to open it and understand why, when that happens, does my whole body get into a mode of fight or flight? Why is that happening? A person that's going to do that is doing mitzvahs habitachon. He's doing mitzvahs limud habitachon then, because he's trying to put the matzah in perspective. It's of course it's refuah hanefesh also, but every person has a lot of it. It's for some reason like a stigma that because if the levels are after a certain level, it's like the person has a problem with blood pressure. So everybody has, but if the numbers are till kach v'kach, it's not such a big issue. If the numbers are more, then you have to take medication. And there's always zachas with sugar, there's always zachas with cholesterol, with alle zachen. But al pi Torah, even if your numbers are some, you don't need medication because it's still within the norm. But if you want to be ozigat al pi Torah, you should be working on it, because you try to figure out, why does this hurt me in such a deep way? And if a person tries to chap, I was scared he's gonna take away my business. I was scared. Say that. Okay. So what you did was, instead of letting it the same way and letting it happen and repeat itself, then you're letting it dissolve. Of course, it's important to stress that this shvere madreges, not everything is so simple. Of course. Not everything is so simple, and sometimes a person could have such deep yush. A person doesn't have koich anymore because they tried and nothing helped. You have to believe that a bunch of them. You tried. You're going to get schar for trying. Deep be'emes is schar for trying. You can never know when the Yeshua is going to come, and many times it comes out of the blue. Many times, Shat is we need to continue to be mispalel and understand that the Zman HaGeula is something that's in the Mafteach from the Rebbeinu Hashem's hands. But a person, the klal is always, the results doesn't have a shaykhis to tell me if this is called ishtadlis. This is called richtige ishtadlis. Person sees this picture So it could also bring a chizik that's not pshat the bitachon is not working for them. Look at how many areas it is. Certain areas where it's so deep, that's where the knowledge is waiting, alav avchem, it's there. But what's needed is that something in the heart, in the process of things, should give a shift in order that the knowledge should be able to seep in. And once that changes, everything's going to come shooting in. Sometimes you see children, teenager works that way. You try and try and try and try. It doesn't seem to go in. They're not interested in going in this mahalach, okay? Then they get older, and again, there's changes in the brain, and they different age, and all of a sudden, the knowledge, it starts raining in, all that. A person shouldn't be tzibrochen, because they should chap a little bit the metzias hadvarim, how it works. Okay.